some slight variations. So we start by setting it up as the quadratic, x to the power 4. Notice there is no cubic term, so I'm going to put in plus 0x cubed plus 3x squared minus x plus 7. And then I get x squared plus 1. So I'm dividing a quadratic by a quadratic, and a quadratic doesn't have a linear term, which we might have to be careful of as well. X squared into x to the power 4 gives me x squared. So I need to be able to do that division. And then I multiply the x squared by the terms over here, which gives me x to the power 4 plus 0x cubed, and then plus x squared. Notice here I've clearly set up a quadratic column, a cubic column, a quadratic column, a linear column, etc. And I'm sticking to those columns. When I multiply this by my divisor, I don't get an x cubed, but I still put 0x cubed there to make sure this works. I do my subtraction, it gives me 0 plus 0, and then this gives me plus 2x squared. I bring down my negative x here, but because this is a two-part, I'll also need to bring down the 7. You'll notice here that in my first step, it involved the cubic and the quadratic term. So you might not recognize this as you're going, but you'll see this pretty quickly. X squared into 2x squared gives me plus 2. I get the plus 2 and multiply it by my divisor. That gives me plus 2x squared minus 0x, or sorry, plus 0x, or either way, and then plus 2. At this stage, if you haven't brought down the 7, because you've got a plus 2, you should recognize you're going to have to bring down the 7. I do that subtraction, and I'm left with 0x squared minus x plus 5. Now, with a linear term, we would have continued on here, but now that we're dividing by a quadratic term, this negative x can't be divided by the quadratic term. So that is our remainder. And we can write this out now as x to the power 4 plus 3x squared minus x plus 7 is equal to x squared plus 1 times by x squared plus 2 with a remainder of negative x plus 5. Procedure's the same. This question combined a few aspects though. Had the 0x cubed I had to deal with, had the fact that my dividing term was quadratic but didn't have a linear component. So this is about as complex as it gets. And it would be a pretty complex familiar question if we did ask you to divide by a quadratic. You can be pretty safe in thinking we're going to be dealing with linear, almost certainly. Are there any questions on that? So you can extend yourself a little bit further now. Question 6 asks you to do the same thing, but it's just rearranged the formatting, and I'll let you have a play with that. And then question 7 is like this. It's asking you to divide by quadratics, and then that's it. And we're not going to get to the factor and remainder theorem.